if we're going to do this interview, we'd be sitting down and actually having tea, and I wouldn't have to be driving.
That's right. We'd be in the back seat.
We'll be in the back seat. There'll be a little
Cheers.
table, we'll have some snacks. Hey, Jason!
Hi, Liz. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Welcome to Baking the Cut.
Thanks for having me.
Are you ready to go for an amazing drive?
I am, and in fact, I bought you a tea.
Oh, thank you so much.
Driver reviver, as they say. So.
Oh, fantastic. You know what? I am going to take a little sip before
lovely.
we leave.
All right.
How about a little sip? Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise. Cheers.
I thought we'd start by talking a little bit about Here Technologies. Tell me a little bit about what you do, and what excites you about the job that you have at Here Technologies.
So we were the company that invented the first digital map over 35 years ago. We're a Silicon Valley startup,
right.
And we have since then really worked to create this digital representation of the world. So, we're actually owned by a number of different companies, including the major German car companies.
I see.
And so embedded across cars all around the world to help with in-vehicle navigation and things like advanced driver assistance systems on the path to autonomous vehicles.
So we have been using the technology that you have for many, many years without even realizing it.
Correct. In-vehicle navigation is a really good example of the technology that we do. So.
Perfect. Kind of tell us about some of the challenges into autonomous driving technology. Why are we still not seeing as much of it yet?
A lot of this has been done in what we call autonomous zones, so that the cities that have proceeded with autonomous vehicles have designated areas where autonomous vehicles can drive.
Okay.
There's other things that are sort of slowing down the decision making here is really the legal frameworks. The idea of having a car that drives itself, where's the responsibility start and stop between the car, the driver?
Yeah.
And then there's all the other factors around, vehicles on the road that are not autonomous add a really complicated random dimension to what truly autonomous vehicles need to deal with. A lot of vehicles are starting to have these semi-autonomous functions.
Okay.
And so it's a steady stepladder towards full autonomy.
At the recent CES, we've heard that BMW, of course, is launching a fully autonomous 7 Series, right? And even from the CTO himself, Frank Weber, he says that, look, this is a level 3 autonomous vehicle. And then just for our viewers, basically autonomous driving technology, there are 5 levels, 0 being kind of no autonomy at all, and then level 5. And there is kind of a disparity between level 2 and level 3. And level 3 pretty much is very advanced technology when it comes to autonomous driving. And of course, he's saying that this is a level 3 BMW self-driving 7 Series. When do you see, let's say, the entire car population, right, reaching at least 50% in autonomous vehicles? And you have a big smile coming on to your face now. Yes. Am I putting you in a corner?
Yeah, it's amazing technology. The level 3, as you said, is really where the driver is no longer making decisions. The vehicle makes all the decisions for the driver. The reason it's level 3 and not level 5 is because it's conditional.
Okay.
Full autonomy, and that means that the vehicle will drive itself under certain conditions. While that technology is there, it's dependent on many other technology foundations, right? So cars these days are increasingly computer data centers on wheels. There's so much computing power, and to do full autonomous, it's very expensive. You need very advanced sensors, but you also need a high definition map. Because the sensors only see so far. And what a high definition map does with very precise precisioning is allows you to see exactly where the vehicle is on the road, but also see around corners, see beyond what the sensors can see, so that the vehicle can predict and preempt what might happen. The other thing is things like traffic conditions and weather conditions all need to be considered as part of autonomous driving. So I think we're still some way off. It's hard to pick a particular date though.
And then there are things like what's ahead of us actually. You can't see this, but there's a lot of roadworks going on, and that as well, right? Because how do you predict that?
when you start getting into things like vehicle-to-vehicle communication, the vehicle sensors can determine, hey, these are roadworks. They'll recognize those cones that are mapped out there to block off the lane. And then the vehicles start talking to each other.
So even the cones have to have some kind of IoT technology
well,
in
no,
them, I suppose.
visual recognition can take care of that. But yes,
okay.
potentially you could do that as
Yes.
well. But you could have the workers flag that, hey, there's construction here.
Yeah.
Planned maintenance is actually captured already into our platform, so we know when roads are going to be blocked in advance. Yes, for traffic calculations and so on.
I'm just thinking about if we want to create this whole reality where you have an autonomous automobile environment, right? What is the role that Here Technologies is going to play in helping to kind of create this reality for our planet?
And they're the things that we're doing right now with a high definition map, so very precise sub 1 centimeter mapping where the lanes are on the road, and that's stored in the car so that when it's driving it has the sensors telling us where it is and then the map telling it's where it is. And so things like the BMW examples, using our high definition live map as one of the underpinning technologies for autonomous driving. So that's the role Here will play. We'll continue to evolve in lots of other areas. There's lots of R&D going on in spaces that I mentioned just earlier. So it's going to keep evolving, but that technology stack is enormous, and there's so much to do.
One of the major challenges is that the ethics of tech is always far behind the tech itself.
Correct.
Right. So when it comes to autonomous driving technology, what are some of the ethical considerations that you're going to have to take into account?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. When the vehicle is in charge of making decisions and emergency situations, there starts to be a calculus around what do you do if you're presented with a challenge of protecting the occupants or saving lives outside.
Yeah.
The first thing is, would you get into an autonomous vehicle that's programmed to kill you?
Yeah.
In certain situations.
Exactly,
and I think that's...
If you knew that was going to happen, right? The decision was going to be made. Yeah.
Maybe what you'll have is a dial that sort of says, here's your ethical spectrum. You select altruistic or selfish, right? I mean, AIs can have that sort of...
I'm very curious about the data around that as well.
Yes. Well, look, I think the thing is that it's still, once again, it's still a lot to do with the regulatory framework. The ethics are something that I think, will be between the car companies and the purchasers and the users of the vehicles. I think we'll choose, but I think the framework to accommodate the fact that, hey, it's not really a human who's making those decisions needs to catch up. At what point does the liability sit with the manufacturer, the programmer, the driver, the other parties, etc.?
So speaking of a regulatory framework, right? I mean, that seems to be coming up a lot in the conversation. So for example, if we look at a traffic offense where in some countries, having an accident with a jaywalker is actually a traffic offense, and what if the autonomous vehicle actually is unable to avoid such an accident, right?
Yes.
I mean, who's going to be held responsible? So is it even building towards those kind of situations?
I mean, it's definitely not there at this stage. Well, I mean, the existing laws are there, and it would be right now that the driver is responsible. Right? In the same way that, if a plane has some incident on autopilot, ultimately it's the captain of the plane is the one who's accountable. But then there's secondary liability, etc.
In this particular area, when we're talking about regulatory framework, how about Here Technologies? How are you kind of positioned in this? Are you can you be some kind of a mediator, or are you where do you sit? In this ecosystem?
That's we certainly do play in that. I mean, clearly we have very close relationships with governments, particularly in places like Germany and elsewhere, where our technology, can help with safety, for example. And you've seen things like the legislation in Europe recently around intelligent speed assist, which is now legislated for all new vehicles in Europe, that require the vehicle to be able to inform the driver about changes in speed zones, and in some cases have the driver react to that change in speed zones. So we've actively worked with government around those sorts of safety measures, and obviously as autonomous vehicles continue to evolve, we'll continue to work with government in those areas as well. So
okay, let's think about it even from an ethical, still in kind of the ethical consideration. So now, if there's no kind of clear best possible scenario, and then the car has to make certain, the computer, right, rather has to make certain decisions based on probabilities, based on available information.
Yes.
How do you think humans, people in general, are going to take issue with that?
People want to know when they're in a car that, particularly with the focus on ethics and sustainability and all that sort of thing, that, you're in a vehicle that's going to make good decisions that are not going to be detrimental to
your safety,
to your safety, nor to others, right? You want it to have that nice, happy medium where everyone gets taken care of. It'll be an adjustment process for people. It's not one of those things that, there'll be some unknown unknowns that hit us.
Of course.
But I mean, it's very hard to say more than that. But the fact is that technology will help play a role to minimize the risks and help reduce the opportunities for errors to creep into or these unknown situations to happen. There will always be a human oversight on this. I mean, AI is artificial intelligence. I actually like to think of it as augmented intelligence,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
It's designed to make your life easier, but not to completely replace you using your own brain, right?
Absolutely not.
But yes, I think there's a lot around that, and there will always be a role for humans. After all,
of course, we create the technology.
We do, and while they might self-learn and tweak their algorithms themselves, I mean, we still provide those parameters that set the boundaries. And even something like ChatGPT is tweaked and tuned continuously to make sure it doesn't overstep the mark, right?
Absolutely. So. I mean, you can see the improvement already,
yeah.
And a lot of it, like we talked about, is the ethics behind it, right? So Jason, maybe help kind of to paint a picture for us, right? How is the future going to look like when you talk about fully autonomous driving vehicles lining our roads? How is that going to look like? Because, I'm thinking kind of a lot of the sci-fi movies that I've been watching.
Yes.
A lot of times when we look at technology, it catches up with the films that we've been watching, right? So how is that going to look like?
I think that it's not going to be that different, right? I mean, in the sense that you'll be able to firstly, I mean, how do you get from A to B if you want to go out or if you need to go shopping, etc. And I think it'll be literally a matter of being able to just, tell which destination you're going to, let the car pick you up from your home, which you may not even own the car. You might just be, it might just be an autonomous
You don't have
service.
to anymore.
Yeah, well, that's right, I mean, I'm sure people will want to own vehicles, but, and it'll take you to the destination. If you're going to stay with the car, it'll find a parking spot for itself. It'll drop you off at the door. Yeah. When you're ready to come out, you may not even have to summon the vehicle. It knows that you've left the shop and you can walk out the front and the vehicle will be waiting for you.
Because clearly your mobile or your watch or any wearables that you're wearing will speak to it.
That's right. They'll be the concept. But and when you're driving, the vehicles will all be talking to each other.
Yeah.
And so they'll have almost like a hive-like knowledge of what's going on in the vicinity, because there'll be a lot of macro level dynamics, like traffic at certain times of day will be well known because of the people coming and going.
Amazing. And of course, Here Technologies is going to be right at the center of it. How exciting! You must be very excited about this.
I am. Absolutely. The map, the location technologies will be at the heart of all of this.
Well, thank you so much, Jason. It's such a pleasure speaking to you. I'm really excited about what the company is doing, and I'm really looking forward to kind of fully autonomous driving vehicles lining our streets.
I have to say, you've driven really well. So,
thank you.
But thank you.
Me
too.
I actually do really love driving. So that's a part I'm going to miss. But like you said, it could be a hybrid environment, right?
Hey, I feel like driving today. I don't feel like driving tomorrow.
Exactly.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Jason.